And I think, just to follow up on that also, that is certainly, I mean, the conversation, this dialogue is meant to be the beginning of some, formulation of yes, how can our organizations help to clarify this? But as we're hearing, even, the state organizations, even the state ed department itself is unable to answer some of these questions. So the lack of clarity is almost seems to be going hand in hand with that. So I'm gonna.
Well, just to make sure that this is, I guess I feel like the charge needs to be made then to the Nystea board to apply pressure to these educational organizations of the state for clarity on this, because and to post that information publicly on the website, because we can play any game if we know the rules, but when we don't know the rules of the game and nobody from the state is looking to tell us what those rules are, true, maybe nobody gets out at the end of the game. But I for one was just looking for clarity on that, and I think that that Nystea as an agency for the arts, particularly for the theater arts, has that opportunity to, even if the answer is we don't know, and put that on a website and say we don't know.
Yes, I hear that, and that's certainly something that the board has been talking about. How can we do that? How we can move forward on that? And if there are people out there who have notions about that, afterwards, I know that we would like to talk, to hear what you think about that. And certainly, if you're watching from a remote location, if you have some suggestions, please send those in. Oh, is this a quick response to?
It's a quick response.
Yeah.
Part of my position with each of the proposals is to roll out the APPR and the SLOs throughout the agency. And one of the things that is being told across the board is that it's a living document, they're changing it, and depending on the teaching standards that the districts are going for, like Jim said, they can't in the first year to fire anybody, because the teaching standards are made so that growth can happen with the teachers. And one of the things that they're trying to do is get, just like you have a behavior intervention plan with special education, they want teacher intervention plans that help the teachers that seem to be having difficulty, whether it's in the arts, dance, music, whatever, to move forward. So unless there's a teacher intervention plan happening, they cannot afford it to the state at this moment. They cannot just get rid of the teacher.
Yes, we're certainly optimistic that they're going to follow through on that, and that they will in the future, even after this year, follow through on the notion that this is to be supported, right, with professional development and all those things. So just to ask the panelists to focus in on some more specific areas of this, if people could respond to the first question, how are the different areas of the arts handling the SLOs, or student learning objectives?
Okay, so with theater, again, it depends on what you're using for your pre-post. In my district, we're using the pre-post test, and once I give that pre-test, I'll be creating a slow for my intro, about 50 some of my intro to theater classes. So there's, like I said, there's art, none of our slows can be the same. I know a lot of people wanted, I heard a lot of schools were creating slows over the summer and sharing slows. I'm not quite sure how that works out before you pre-test to get that pre-knowledge, but that's what theater's, I think, at this point doing.
Can somebody just give me a freaking example of what a slow for theater would be? I mean, I know what we do, and I know learning objectives, but I just need to hear, like, one really, just a good example.
If you go to Engage New York, there are examples from different subjects. I wish I remember the exact website, but I know it's on engageNewYork.org. Somewhere within that sitemap, you can find examples of what other teachers have done who have already created their SLOs. As well, I believe there is a matrix chart similar to what our BOCES worked with that gives you the benchmarks within the New York State standards that you can work off of and pick and choose. To my presumption was after the pretest, you see where your students need work. You build your SLO from that based on where you think that they need the most work so that they can grow based on your learning objectives that you choose. You pick and choose which ones they did poorly on, I'm assuming the most poorly on, so that you can help them get those up to par. But again, you have to have the pretest for that first, from which we use the matrices to build the bank of questions from. And
there are a number of model SLOs on Engage New York. There are also some webinars about the SLOs. I will say though that from my recent visit there, none of the model SLOs were for theater. So I'm wondering if
I will share mine
yeah.
as soon as it's done. I mean, as soon as I create it, certainly. I'm just waiting to get access to that test so that I can give it and then create my SLO. But as soon as I create it, I'm more than welcome to share it on the website.
So this is another thing that members should consider, is that within the next few weeks, people could perhaps start posting both to the website or tweeting or through Facebook some model SLOs from their own work, and that may be a place where we can continue the dialogue even though we're remote. What about so how are the other areas? Visual arts?
This summer, our district, we first met as a high school team, and there were 5 people, and we looked at what we thought our 51% would be, and we wound up writing SLOs for studio and art. We have about 500 students in studio and art. And then the first level of photography and the first level of drawing and painting. Actually, we really, because we had so many kids taking studio and art, which is a high school requirement, we spent most of our time with that, and we found that once we plowed through that, it was a little bit easier to write the other SLOs. What we did is come up with 3 small tasks, pre-assessments that take about 20 to 30, 35 minutes that we have a 83-minute period. We gave 1 a day along with some other stuff in class because we knew that kids could not focus for the length of time to do them consecutively. And then at the end of the year, we would expect that students have built that focus, would be able to merge some of these things. And a lot of it dealt with perceptual skills, spatial skills, compositional skills and structure. But like you had mentioned, the hardest part, we spent most of our energy writing the rubric. The rubric was really, really difficult. And then I facilitated the elementary and middle school groups, and one of the elementary teachers who was a NYSATA member, they really developed a model K-12 that looks at the self-portrait as an assessment tool. And they pretty much liked that format. We tweaked it a little bit. And then we had to do something to align the elementary to the high school, and the middle school people really came up with sort of a nice assessment that deals with the foundational language and foundational skills. That's really a nice bridge between elementary and middle. But like I said, it's the rubric that was a killer to write.
And I got a copy of the K-12 self-portrait SLOs. And what's interesting is there was obviously several pieces they had to leave out until those pre-tests happened. So I thought that was a really cool way that the arts educators did the self-portrait idea at K-12.
As far as music, I should mention also that NYSSMA, on the NYSSMA website, there are several examples of SLOs from various school districts that are really informative. They're good examples, even if you don't know what you want to do for theater ones. Going from the other arts, I don't want to say it translates directly, but it will help point you in the correct direction. Our district has had several meetings on this, as opposed to my wife's district, which has had one meeting on half of Superintendent's Day, and we ended up in about the same place. Because so much of the information has changed since last June when we first started formulating these. Our district's charge through our fine arts department, music, art, and theater, was was to create SLOs on what we thought our 51% would be. And we also developed pre and post tests, of which now we know we cannot give a post test based solely on questions that we have created by ourselves because of the clause in there that says you cannot have a vested interest if you are creating a post test for it. But the summer work got us in the right direction, at least thinking in the right direction, so we may be completely redoing what we've started, but I think that we're a little bit more prepared in our district for whatever the next piece of information is coming out.
Is that vested interest statement, is that from the state document or from your district
I
document?
believe it's a state document, or was it just our BOCES? I believe it was the state.
Really?
Because it's a vested interest in your student's outcome. We were told through our local BOCES, and we had them double check with the state because there was a huge meeting with it, was it a week and a half ago? Several administrators went to Albany for 2 or 3 days just to talk about that 20% that cannot be negotiated by the district. And what they came up with was that